In this week's video, I share the mindset shifts I made to rebuild my confidence after experiencing narcissistic abuse. I'll share the powerful steps that helped me along the way. It was a really tough journey. I thought it would take me a lifetime, but actually I got narcissist-free in about 6 months. So one interesting fact is that chronic long-term stress causes life-limiting illnesses. And did you know that the long-term chronic effects of narcissistic abuse on victims include a myriad of issues that dramatically decrease the victim's quality of life? So the two go together. They range from chronic health conditions and also lifelong psychological and emotional issues. And these issues are caused by extremely high levels of unprocessed and untreated stress that are a direct result of living with or being married to a highly narcissistic individual, such as someone suffering from narcissistic personality disorder, or having a parent who is narcissistic. When I realised what kind of person I'd married after about 20 years, it was a huge shock, and even though I was experiencing a catalogue of abuse. I entered a very steep learning curve, and the rest is history, as they say. Now I live a very happy, peaceful and contented life with my partner and now fiance, who is loving and kind, and my children are happy and confidently living their lives. You could say we're all thriving. I feel I've broken that cycle of abuse that existed in my lineage. And this is going maybe the subject of another video, I'm sure. But it wasn't always like this, and for a long time I was trapped in survival mode. I was living a nightmare, but dreaming of living a good life. There was a point in my life where this domestic ideal was just a distant dream or a fantasy, but it wasn't my reality. And I found myself living in a nightmare, and reality hit hard when I realised I'd married a psychopath and I'd been massively duped. It was a soul-crushing experience, totally devastating. And I realised I was a victim, and I knew that for all the abuse I'd suffered, at some level there were issues that I had in my psyche that made it all possible. And at this point I should explain that I'm in no way victim blaming anyone who has also found themselves in a similar situation. What I was to learn was that my early conditioning had primed me for a relationship like this, and that I was totally unaware of this fact all of my life. That is, until I realised what I had married. I promised myself 2 things: that I would never let this happen to me again, and not only that, I would learn how to live a happy life, because I obviously didn't know how. I vowed to do whatever was necessary to free me from whatever it was that had somehow attracted this and created this in my life. So, looking at all the evidence that life was showing me, I accepted that I had no idea how to create a happy life, and that I had very low self-esteem. I'd always had problems with self-confidence. So I turned myself into a project. I would work out what happened to me so that I could prevent it from ever happening to me again. I didn't flinch from going to the places where it was difficult emotionally. I had nearly died a few times, so I'd lived through some scary stuff as it was, and I wasn't going to be scared again, doing whatever I needed to do to make myself well and get free and get a happy life. In other words, I never gave up on my dream. And looking back, living a happy life and raising a loving family has always been my greatest desire. It was the one thing I didn't have as a child. I see a lot of people who believe they've been broken by their experience, and they settle for living a life that is less than because they had such a traumatic experience with a narcissistic person or in a narcissistic family of origin. But if you take one thing away with you from this video, it is not ever to give up on your dreams or on yourself in this situation. Don't let them rob you of your future happiness. So I took what can only be described as a really intuitive approach to my healing. I did everything in my power to work out how I was going to get through the trauma and get my life back. And I took a really, really intuitive approach. I wanted to change my life trajectory. As the powerful Buddhist teaching says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I believe this to be absolutely true. It had been true all my life when I look back. And I kept my mind open and curious to possibilities. I didn't accept some of my beliefs because I had been wrong about so many things before. And I learned to question myself, but in a productive and rational way. I was open to being taught. I treated myself like a blank canvas and discovered things along the way. I didn't put a time scale on my recovery at all. I was just grateful for being given the opportunity to be able to work everything out, and was thankful for still being alive to do the work. And I know so many victims are not granted this. So, having made my vows, I then worked on myself every day with all the tools that I gathered. And I literally became my own therapist. And I learned the skill of being able to access my subconscious programming and learned how to process and question all the many limiting beliefs I had. And if you want to know a bit more about this in detail, I'll leave a link to my shadow work video for you to follow up with. So when you start questioning your beliefs, they start to lose their power. And this is what started to happen. And I knew that creating change was only possible from the inside out. And I became highly intuitive and learned to trust my intuition. And this has guided me along this path all this time. So this was remarkable because literally I had it turned off for most of my life. So I started taking steps to begin living my dream. Everything I did every day was to take me a little step nearer to living my dream. Another truth that helped me have faith was that it was possible. Was what you want is wanting you. And what I wanted was a happy life. So I'm delighted to report that I did transform very quickly. And I was able to attract safe people into my life within about 6 months of leaving the psychopath. I still work on myself today, 8 years later, but this time I'm no longer stuck in survival mode. I'm more in maintenance mode. So now I turn my attention to creating the continuation of living my happiest life ever and working to fulfill the potential I had hidden for so long. I help my clients do exactly the same, no matter what they've been through. So I work with women who just want to live a happy, fulfilled and connected life. The narcissistic abuse experience was just a catalyst for the incredible transformation. And at the time, I didn't consider the timescale at all. I just wanted to get better. And it turns out that the process I intuitively discovered to create my own transformation also creates powerful transformations to my clients too, and creates them in quick time. So if you'd like to know more, check out my details in the description. Thanks for listening, and please do click like and subscribe if you want to be notified of further uploads. I'll see you in the next video.